The amber glow of sunset filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Riverstone Gallery, an elegant showcase of modern art nestled between a vintage record store and a French patisserie in the cultural district of Austin, Texas. The scent of fresh lilies and subtle notes of sandalwood hung in the air like an invisible welcome. Everything about the gallery exuded sophistication. The polished concrete floors, the minimalist white walls adorned with vibrant paintings, the strategic spotlights highlighting each piece, and the soft ambient music playing from hidden speakers. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Elena Vasquez, the owner and curator of the gallery, stood beside a striking abstract piece wearing a tailored black jumpsuit. At 50, she was captivating in a way that wasn't calculated or desperate. Her confidence came from living, from weathering storms and celebrating triumphs with equal grace. Her silver-streaked black hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders, and her perceptive dark eyes missed nothing. She moved with purpose, discussing composition techniques with art students, greeting regular patrons. But anyone observing closely could see the slight tension in her posture. She had built this gallery from nothing after her career as a corporate art consultant imploded 5 years ago when Jeremy, her mentor and business partner, took credit for her biggest acquisition and pushed her out of the firm they'd built together. Elena wasn't bitter anymore, or at least she pretended not to be. She had more pressing concerns, like finalizing the upcoming exhibition featuring emerging artists, resolving the dispute with her landlord about the proposed rent increase, and hiding her growing anxiety about the gallery's financial future from her assistant curator. Then he walked in. Tall, with salt and pepper hair and thoughtful eyes, Alex Donovan, 53, stepped into the gallery like someone relearning how to participate in the world, which, to be fair, he was. A widower for 2 years, Alex had once been a celebrated photojournalist whose images of global conflicts and humanitarian crises had won awards and changed policies. Now he struggled to find meaning in capturing any image at all. He'd tried therapy, meditation, even a grief retreat in New Mexico that his daughter Zoe had researched and practically forced him to attend. Nothing had rekindled his passion for life or his art, but today he decided to visit a gallery. His therapist, Dr. Chen, had gently insisted, "You need to reconnect with art, Alex, not just as a creator, but as someone who can still be moved by beauty." His service dog, Luna, a gentle golden retriever trained to respond to his anxiety attacks, would have agreed if she could speak. Instead, she'd nudged him toward the door that morning with unusual persistence. Alex moved through the gallery slowly, studying each piece with professional interest but emotional distance, until he saw her. Elena was explaining the technique behind a large-scale mixed-media piece to an elderly couple, her hands moving expressively, her face animated with genuine passion. Something about her struck him, not just her physical beauty, but the authenticity in her enthusiasm. For the first time in 2 years, he felt a flicker of curiosity about another human being. When the couple moved on, Alex approached, pretending to study the artwork, but actually gathering courage. After a moment, Elena turned to him with a professional smile. "This piece speaks to you?" she asked, her voice warm but neutral. Alex looked at the canvas, then back at her. "The art is interesting, but I find you more compelling," he said, surprising himself with his directness. Elena raised an eyebrow, her professional demeanor shifting slightly. "That's quite a compliment coming from someone holding a camera that expensive." She nodded toward the vintage Leica hanging around his neck. "It's mostly for show these days," he admitted. "I haven't taken a meaningful photograph in 2 years. That sounds like a story." "It is, but not a particularly uplifting one." They fell silent as another patron approached Elena with a question. Alex used the opportunity to actually look at the artwork. It was a chaotic swirl of colors with geometric shapes cutting through the disorder. Beautiful in its controlled chaos. When Elena returned, he had formed an actual opinion. "It reminds me of life," he said. "How structure and order can exist alongside complete unpredictability." Elena's eyes widened slightly. That's exactly what the artist said was her intention. Alex smiled for what felt like the first time in ages. "I've spent my career looking at the world through a frame. You develop an eye for underlying patterns." A photographer, Elena nodded. I thought so. Former photographer, he corrected. No one who looks at art the way you do is a former anything creative, she countered. The eye doesn't forget. There was something disarming about her. Directness, her quiet confidence. Before he could overthink it, Alex blurted out, "You're stunning at 50. The words hung between them like a held breath. Her eyes widened slightly, but instead of offense, he saw something like amused appreciation flicker across her face. Elena tilted her head, studying him with newfound interest. Most men would never dare say that number out loud, she said with a small smile playing on her lips. Then, making a decision, she added, "Then let's have dinner tonight." Now it was Alex's turn to be surprised. He hadn't expected such a direct response, hadn't expected any response other than polite dismissal. His social skills were rusty after years of gradual isolation. Yes, I'd like that, he managed. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Good, she replied, handing him a business card. I close at 8. There's a Spanish restaurant 2 blocks east that stays open late. Meet me there at 8:30. Then she turned to greet a new group of visitors, leaving Alex standing there, business card in hand, feeling like someone who had accidentally stepped into someone else's life. At the reception desk, Mia, Elena's 20-something assistant with bright blue hair and an encyclopedic knowledge of contemporary artists, leaned toward Ray, the gallery's security guard with sleeve tattoos and a secret passion for watercolor landscapes. Did the boss lady just make a date with camera guy? Mia whispered, incredulous. Ray nodded slowly. And did he just comment on her age? Bold move. Either spectacularly confident or completely clueless, Mia agreed. $10, says he doesn't show. 20 says he does, but wears something totally wrong for Alma's, Ray countered, referring to the upscale Spanish restaurant Elena had mentioned. As Alex walked toward the exit, Luna padding faithfully beside him, he caught their speculative glances and felt a moment of panic. What was he doing? He hadn't been on a date since before he married Catherine 15 years ago. He didn't even know how to date in this era of apps and instant connections. And why had he mentioned her age? It had just slipped out. An observation of how striking she was, not despite her age, but somehow because of it. The confidence, the self-possession, the lack of pretense, they were qualities that only came with time. Outside on the sidewalk, he pulled out his phone and called Zoe. When she answered, he spoke without preamble. I have a dinner date tonight. The silence on the other end lasted so long he checked to see if the call had dropped. Finally, Zoe's voice came through, a mixture of shock and delight. Dad, that's... Wow. That's amazing. With whom? The owner of an art gallery. She's... interesting. How did this happen? Where did you meet her? What's her name? Is Luna okay with her? The questions tumbled out. Slow down. Alex chuckled, surprised by the sound. Her name is Elena. I met her at her gallery just now, and Luna seems to approve. She's wagging her tail as we speak. This is huge, Dad, Zoe said softly. Like, monumentally huge. It's just dinner, he protested weakly. But even he didn't believe it. It wasn't just dinner. It was the first step back toward living. What are you going to wear? Zoe asked, practical as always. Alex looked down at his faded jeans and rumpled button-down shirt. I have no idea. Back in the gallery, Elena found herself distracted as she described a series of charcoal sketches to a potential buyer. Her mind kept drifting to the photographer with the sad eyes and direct manner. What had possessed her to invite him to dinner so impulsively? She prided herself on her measured approach to life, especially after Jeremy's betrayal had left her both professionally and personally devastated. And yet, something about Alex had intrigued her. Perhaps it was the way he looked at her art, with genuine interest rather than social obligation. Or maybe it was the unvarnished honesty in his compliment. Most men either avoided mentioning her age entirely, or made those annoying comments about how she didn't look her age, as if aging were something to be ashamed of rather than earned. But there had been something refreshing about his straightforward appreciation. Stunning at 50, not despite it. Elena. Mia appeared at her elbow. The Hendersons have questions about the installation piece in the west corner. Elena nodded, pulling herself back to the present. Of course. I'll be right there. As she walked across the gallery, she caught her reflection in a glass display case. She had never been insecure about her appearance, but years of Jeremy's subtle negging had left invisible scars. You look tired, he would say, or, that outfit doesn't quite work at your age, does it? Small, poisoned darts that had accumulated over time. She straightened her shoulders. Tonight would be interesting, at the very least. And if nothing else, it would be a welcome distraction from her mounting concerns about the gallery's future. Alex spent the afternoon in a state of nervous anticipation that he hadn't experienced since his 20s. He returned to his apartment, a spacious but Spartan loft filled with photographs he couldn't bear to display but couldn't bring himself to store away either, and stared at his limited wardrobe. After Catherine's diagnosis, fashion had fallen to the bottom of his priority list and never really recovered. He settled on his one good suit, charcoal gray, slightly outdated in cut but classic enough to pass, and a crisp white shirt. No tie. That felt too formal. As he dressed, Luna watched from her bed with what he swore was canine amusement. Don't judge, he told her. You've never had a first date. Luna tilted her head as if to say she'd never needed one. Alex knelt beside her. I need you to be okay on your own tonight, girl. Just for a few hours. The idea of leaving her made him anxious. Luna had been his constant companion through the darkest days of his grief. But he knew she would be fine. She had her bed, her toys, and the apartment was secure. As if sensing his concern, Luna nudged his hand with her nose, then walked to her bed and settled down with a pointed look that seemed to say, go live a little. At 8:25, Alex found himself standing outside Alma's, a cozy restaurant with warm, golden lighting and the tantalizing aroma of saffron and garlic wafting from within. He hesitated, suddenly overwhelmed with doubt. What was he doing here? He was a broken man with too much baggage, someone who hadn't taken a decent photograph in years despite it once being his lifeblood. What could he possibly offer someone? Like Elena? He was just about to turn away when he saw her approaching from down the block. She had changed into a deep burgundy dress that complemented her olive skin, her hair now pulled back to reveal elegant earrings that caught the streetlight. She looked both sophisticated and approachable, a combination he found utterly disarming. Elena spotted him and smiled, quickening her pace slightly. You came, she said when she reached him, and he heard a note of genuine pleasure in her voice. Did you think I wouldn't? He asked. I wasn't sure, she admitted. It was rather forward of me. Forward is refreshing, he said honestly. I've spent too long in retreat. Something in his tone made her study him more carefully. I think there's a story there. There is, he nodded. But maybe not for the appetizer course. She laughed, a warm sound that made something tight in his chest loosen slightly. Fair enough. Shall we? She gestured toward the door. Inside, the restaurant was intimate without being crowded, with well-spaced tables and subdued conversation creating a pleasant backdrop. The hostess led them to a corner table partially secluded by a decorative screen, where a small candle flickered between two place settings. I took the liberty of making a reservation, Elena explained as they sat. This place fills up quickly, even on weeknights. I'm impressed by your foresight, Alex said, settling into his chair, and a little intimidated. Elena smiled as she unfolded her napkin. Don't be. I'm a planner by nature and necessity. Running a gallery requires anticipating everything from critics' reactions to the exact shade of white paint that will best showcase each artist's work. I can imagine, Alex nodded. In my previous life, I had to anticipate whether a political situation would erupt into violence or which angle would best capture the humanity in a refugee camp. Different contexts, similar skill. Your previous life, Elena repeated thoughtfully. You've mentioned that twice now. What changed? A server approached with water and menus, temporarily sparing Alex from answering. After they had ordered, Elena confidently selecting dishes to share in fluent Spanish, another surprise. he found himself ready to offer at least part of the truth. "My wife died," he said simply. 2 years ago. Cancer. It was quick and slow at the same time, if that makes any sense. Elena's expression softened with understanding rather than pity, which he appreciated. "I'm sorry, Alex. And yes, it makes perfect sense. My father passed from heart disease. 10 years of knowing it could happen at any moment. Then suddenly overnight it did." "Exactly," he nodded, grateful for her comprehension. "Catherine was my compass in many ways. After she was gone, I couldn't find my direction anymore. Couldn't see the world the way I used to." "And your camera gathered dust," Elena concluded. "Precisely." She took a sip of her water, studying him. "And today, you decided to visit an art gallery because—" "My therapist's suggestion," Alex admitted with a self-deprecating smile. "She thinks I need to reconnect with creativity, even if it's not my own yet." "A wise therapist," Elena nodded. "Art is how we process the world, whether we're creating it or experiencing it." "And what about you?" Alex asked, eager to shift the focus. "How does someone become the owner of a gallery like Riverstone?" A shadow crossed Elena's face briefly before she composed herself. "That's my previous life story, I suppose. I was a corporate art consultant for 15 years, helping companies build collections that would appreciate in value while impressing clients. I was good at it, spotting talent early, knowing which artists would break through." "But?" Alex prompted, sensing there was more. "But I had a business partner who decided my talent would better serve him without me attached to it," she said, her voice even but with an undercurrent of old pain. "Jeremy Ross. We built the firm together, but as we became more successful, he became more controlling. Took credit for my acquisitions, undermined me with clients. He sounds charming," Alex commented dryly. Elena's lips quirked. "Oh, he is. Devastatingly so. That's what makes men like him so dangerous. They charm you while they're calculating how to use you." Their first course arrived, a plate of pan con tomate and jamon iberico that looked simple but smelled divine. As they began to eat, Elena continued her story. "The final straw was when I discovered a major new talent, an installation artist whose work is now in the MoMA. I brought her to our firm, nurtured the relationship, and then suddenly Jeremy was taking meetings with her alone, telling her I was too busy. Next thing I knew, he'd secured an exclusive representation agreement that didn't include me, then used that success to push me out of the company entirely." "That's more than unethical," Alex frowned. "It's theft." "Exactly." Elena nodded, appreciating his understanding. "But it was all perfectly legal because of how our partnership was structured. He bought me out for a fraction of what the firm was worth." "And from that, you built Riverstone," Alex concluded. Her expression brightened. "I did. I took what was left of my savings, found a small space in a less fashionable part of town, and started showcasing artists that the corporate world was overlooking. Women, people of color, those with unconventional backgrounds or approaches." "That explains the vitality of your collection," Alex observed. "There's nothing safe or predictable about it." Elena looked pleased. "That's exactly what I'm aiming for. Art that challenges and reveals, not just art that matches the furniture." Their conversation flowed easily through the meal, moving from art to travel, from books they'd love to places they hoped to see. Alex found himself laughing more than he had in years, drawn to Elena's sharp wit and perceptive observations. She, in turn, was fascinated by his stories of photographing everything from war zones to wildlife, appreciating his eye for detail and the humanity in his anecdotes. It wasn't until dessert, a shared plate of churros with chocolate sauce, that Elena circled back to his earlier comment. "So," she said, dipping a churro delicately, "you think I'm stunning at 50. Alex felt heat rise to his face, but held her gaze. "I do. There's something powerful about a woman who's lived enough to know exactly who she is. It's compelling." Elena considered this. Most men our age are chasing women in their 30s, trying to recapture something they think they've lost. "I'm not interested in recapturing anything," Alex said honestly. "The past is, well, it's precious to me. But it's past. I'm more curious about what might still be ahead." Even with all your baggage? She asked gently. Even with all my baggage, he confirmed. Though I should warn you, my baggage includes a very large, very furry service dog who thinks she's the boss of me. Elena smiled. I like dogs, and I have plenty of baggage myself. Your ex-partner? Jeremy? He's part of it, but there's more. She hesitated, then decided to continue. The gallery is struggling. The landlord is raising the rent by 40% when my lease renews next month. The neighborhood has become desirable, which means unaffordable for a small, independent gallery featuring non-commercial artists. That's brutal, Alex frowned. Can you negotiate? I've tried. But Jeremy's firm just opened a branch 2 blocks away, and they're willing to pay premium rates. I suspect he's behind the increase. He's never forgiven me for succeeding without him. So, what will you do? Elena sighed. I don't know yet. Move to a cheaper location and lose the foot traffic? Take on more commercial artists to pay. The bills? Close altogether? None of those options sound like you, Alex observed. No, she agreed. They don't. But sometimes life narrows your choices until the only options left are compromises. Alex was quiet for a moment, thinking. Or sometimes you need a fresh perspective, new eyes on an old problem. Is that an offer? Elena asked, half joking. Maybe, he replied, surprising himself. I may not be taking photos anymore, but I still know how to look at situations from multiple angles. The server brought their check, and they had a brief, good-natured argument about who would pay. They eventually agreed to split it. This is 2025, after all, Elena pointed out. Outside the restaurant, the night had turned cooler. Elena pulled a light wrap around her shoulders as they stood somewhat awkwardly on the sidewalk, neither quite ready to end the evening. Would you like to walk for a bit? Alex suggested. The river path is beautiful at night. Elena checked her watch. I should probably head home. Early meeting tomorrow with a potential donor. Of course, Alex nodded, trying to hide his disappointment. But, she continued, I'd like to see you again, and meet this boss dog of yours. Relief and pleasure washed through him. I'd like that too. Luna will be thrilled to have a visitor. She thinks I've become a hermit. Smart dog, Elena smiled. How about Saturday? You could come to the gallery first. We're having a small reception for a new sculptor. And then we could go to your place after? That sounds perfect, Alex agreed, wondering at how easily she made plans, how confidently she moved through the world. It was refreshing after so long in the fog of grief. They exchanged phone numbers, and then there was that moment, the first date pause where both parties assessed the appropriate goodbye. Elena solved the dilemma by stepping forward and kissing him lightly on the cheek. Thank you for a lovely evening, Alex, she said softly. It's been a long time since I've enjoyed someone's company this much. The feeling is mutual, he replied, catching a hint of her perfume. Something with notes of amber and vanilla. And thank you for not being offended by my clumsy compliment. She laughed. It was honest, not clumsy. And honesty is rare enough that it should be rewarded. With that, she hailed a passing taxi, and with a final wave, she was gone, leaving Alex standing on the sidewalk feeling more awake, more present than he had in years. As he walked back to his apartment, he found himself noticing details again. The way the streetlights created pools of gold on the wet pavement. How the late-night coffee shop's windows framed the solitary barista like a Hopper painting. The contrast of a vibrant street mural against the shadowed brick. For the first time in 2 years, his fingers itched for his camera, wanting to capture these moments, these impressions. When he reached his building, he found himself taking the stairs instead of the elevator, energized despite the late hour. Luna greeted him enthusiastically at the door, circling and wagging as if he'd been gone for days instead of hours. You'll never believe it, girl, he told her as he hung up his jacket. I have a date on Saturday, and she wants to meet you. Luna's tail wagged harder, as if she understood every word. That night, Alex slept deeply, and without nightmares for the first time in months. And when he woke, the first thing he did was reach for his camera. Across town, Elena sat at her kitchen island, a cup of herbal tea cooling beside her as she reviewed the gallery's financial statements for what felt like the 100th time. The numbers hadn't changed, no matter how many ways she sorted them. The rent increase would cripple her unless she found a solution soon. Her phone buzzed with a text. Expecting it to be Mia with a question about tomorrow's meeting, she was surprised to see Alex's name instead. "Thank you for tonight," the message read. "I just realized I didn't tell you the most important thing. Your gallery inspired me to pick up my camera again this morning. Whatever happens next, I'm grateful for that." Elena smiled, setting down her spreadsheets. The numbers would wait until morning. For tonight she allowed herself to feel something she hadn't experienced in quite a while. Hope, and the fluttering possibility of something new beginning. The morning after her dinner with Alex, Elena woke to golden sunlight streaming through her bedroom curtains. Her loft apartment above a former textile factory was a testament to her eye for design. Open and airy, with exposed brick walls softened by contemporary furniture in shades of cream and blue. Artwork from emerging artists she'd discovered filled the space, each piece telling a story of potential recognized. She reached for her phone, rereading Alex's text about picking up his camera again. A small smile played on her lips. There was something deeply satisfying about inspiring someone to reconnect with their passion, especially someone who clearly had so much talent lying dormant. As she prepared for her day, brewing strong coffee, selecting a structured navy dress that projected confidence, reviewing her notes for the donor meeting, Elena found her thoughts repeatedly drifting to Alex, his gentle humor, the attentive way he listened, how his eyes crinkled when he laughed. It had been years since she'd felt this kind of connection with someone. After Jeremy's betrayal, she'd thrown herself into building the gallery, letting relationships become secondary to her professional mission. "Focus, Elena," she muttered to herself as she gathered her portfolio. Today's meeting with Victoria Caldwell, a wealthy philanthropist known for supporting the arts, could potentially solve her financial problems, if she could convince Victoria that Riverstone Gallery was worth investing in. When Elena arrived at the gallery, Mia was already there, arranging fresh flowers in the entrance and practically vibrating with curiosity. "Good morning," Elena said casually, setting down her bag and pretending not to notice Mia's expectant expression. "Morning," Mia replied, then burst out. "So, how was it? Did camera guy turn out to be weird? Did he spend the whole night talking about f-stops and shutter speeds?" Elena suppressed a smile. "His name is Alex. He's a photojournalist, or was, and no, he didn't talk about camera settings all night." "So it was good?" Mia pressed, arranging the last lily with unnecessary force. "It was. Interesting," Elena conceded. "He's been through a lot, but there's something genuine about him." "You're seeing him again," Mia concluded triumphantly. "I can tell by your face." "You should consider a career in detective work," Elena said dryly. "Now, is everything ready for Victoria Caldwell? She'll be here in 30 minutes. Mia nodded, temporarily distracted by business. "The presentation is set up in the back office, coffee service is ready, and Ray polished every surface in the place. That woman could perform surgery on our floors." "Perfect. And the Sandoval installation?" "Lighting fixed, all elements secure." Elena felt a surge of gratitude for her small but dedicated team. "What would I do without you?" "Probably forget to eat and sleep," Mia replied cheerfully. "Speaking of which, you should know that Jeremy Ross called yesterday after you left. Said he wants to discuss a mutually beneficial arrangement regarding your space." Elena's mood instantly darkened. "I'm sure he does. Did he mention that his new gallery branch is probably the reason my rent is skyrocketing?" "He did not," Mia said. "But he did mention that he's concerned about the sustainability of your business model and would hate to see you struggle unnecessarily." "How thoughtful of him," Elena said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Next time he calls, tell him I'm busy discovering the next generation of artists he'll try to steal." The meeting with Victoria Caldwell started promisingly. An elegant woman, in her 60s with steel-gray hair and impeccable taste, Victoria was impressed by the caliber of work Elena had cultivated. "You have an exceptional eye," Victoria observed as they toured the gallery. "These artists deserve recognition." "That's exactly my mission," Elena explained passionately, "to create space for voices that the established art world often overlooks." Victoria nodded thoughtfully. "A noble purpose. But how do you balance that mission with financial realities? This was the opening Elena had been waiting for. She outlined her proposal, a partnership where Victoria would provide capital investment in exchange for naming rights to a new educational program at the gallery, focused on mentoring young artists from underrepresented communities. Victoria listened attentively, asking sharp questions about financials and impact metrics. As they returned to the office to review projections, Elena felt cautiously optimistic. Until Victoria asked the question she'd been dreading. And the lease situation? I understand your rent is increasing substantially. Elena took a deep breath. Yes, by 40%. The neighborhood has gentrified rapidly, and commercial rents have followed suit. Have you considered relocating? I've explored options, Elena admitted. But this location provides the foot traffic and visibility that allows these artists to be seen. Moving to a less central area would significantly impact their exposure. Victoria's expression was sympathetic, but practical. I admire your commitment, Elena, but I need to be confident in the sustainability of any project I support. With this rent increase hanging over you? The rest of the meeting continued cordially, but Elena could sense Victoria's hesitation. By the time the philanthropist left, promising to consider the proposal carefully, Elena knew she was back at square one. That bad? Mia asked, finding Elena staring blankly at her computer screen an hour later. She's not going to invest, Elena said flatly. Not unless I can resolve the lease issue. Maybe we could do a crowdfunding campaign? Mia suggested. The community loves this place. Elena shook her head. Crowdfunding might cover a month, or two, but it's not a sustainable solution. We need something more substantial. As if on cue, her phone rang. Unknown number. Elena almost ignored it, but professional habit won out. Riverstone Gallery, this is Elena. Elena Vasquez? A man's voice, unfamiliar. This is Daniel Chen with Urban Properties. I believe you know my client, Jeremy Ross? Elena's grip tightened on the phone. I do. Mr. Ross asked me to reach out regarding a potential business opportunity. He's interested in discussing the sublease of your gallery space. So there it was. Jeremy's plan laid bare. He hadn't just found space near her gallery. He wanted her space specifically. It wasn't enough to steal her artists and push her out of their firm. He needed to erase any trace of her success. Mr. Chen, Elena said, keeping her voice steady, please tell Jeremy that Riverstone Gallery is not available for sublease, now or ever. If he wants to discuss anything, he can call me directly instead of hiding behind his real estate agent. She ended the call before he could respond, anger burning hot in her chest. The audacity, the sheer calculating cruelty of it. Trying to benefit from her precarious situation that he himself had helped create. Everything okay? Ray asked, appearing in her doorway with concern etched on his face. Jeremy's making his move, Elena said grimly. He wants to take over our lease. Ray's usually gentle expression hardened. That man needs a lesson in karma. He certainly does, Elena agreed. But right now, I need a miracle. The rest of the day passed in a blur of routine gallery operations, but Elena's mind kept circling back to her predicament. By closing time, she felt drained, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her. As she locked up, double-checking the security system, her phone buzzed with a text. Alex. Hope your donor meeting went well. Looking at some of my old photographs and thinking about light and perspective. Wondering if you might want to grab coffee tomorrow. Luna says hi. Despite everything, Elena smiled. She typed back, meeting was complicated. Coffee sounds perfect. Does Luna have a favorite cafe? His response came quickly. Luna prefers places with outdoor seating and staff who sneak her treats. How about Crescent Coffee on Lamar, 11 a.m.? See you there, she replied, feeling a small lift in her spirits, despite the day's disappointments. The next morning dawned cool and bright. Elena dressed casually in jeans and a soft cashmere sweater, a deliberate departure from her professional gallery attire. Today wasn't about business, it was about connection. Crescent Coffee was a charming spot with a vine-covered patio and mismatched furniture that somehow worked together. Elena arrived a few minutes early, selecting a corner table with good sunlight. She was just settling in when she spotted Alex walking toward the cafe, Luna trotting elegantly beside him. Even from a distance, Elena could see a difference in his demeanor. He stood straighter, moved with more purpose, and, most notably, had his camera slung around his neck. Not just carrying it, but wearing it like it belonged there. Luna spotted her first, her tail beginning to wag as she pulled slightly, toward the patio. Alex followed her gaze and smiled when he saw Elena, raising his hand in greeting. "Is this seat taken?" he asked as he approached her table. "I was saving it for a photographer and his very distinguished dog," Elena replied, with a smile. Luna, as if understanding she'd been complimented, sat primly beside Alex's chair, her intelligent eyes taking in everything. "She's beautiful," Elena said, extending her hand slowly for Luna to sniff. The dog gave her fingers a gentle inspection, then pressed her head against Elena's palm, approval granted. "She likes you," Alex observed. "She's an excellent judge of character." "Clearly," Elena agreed, scratching behind Luna's ears. "How long have you had her?" 3 years, Alex said, a shadow crossing his face. "She started as Catherine's therapy dog during treatment, but she bonded with both of us. After." He paused, swallowing hard. "After Catherine died, Luna became my anchor. She was trained to respond to anxiety and PTSD, which I developed after some of my work in conflict zones. Having her meant I had to get up every day, go outside, keep functioning." "She saved you," Elena said softly. "She did," Alex nodded, "though she probably thinks it's the other way around." A server came to take their order, a cortado for Alex, chai latte for Elena, and a bowl of water for Luna, who received it with dignified appreciation. "So," Alex said once they were settled, "your meeting was complicated?" Elena sighed, surprisingly ready to share her troubles with this man she barely knew. She explained the situation with Jeremy, the rent increase, Victoria's hesitation, and the latest development with the sublease inquiry. "He sounds like a special kind of manipulator," Alex commented when she'd finished. "The type who needs to win even when the game is over." "Exactly," Elena agreed. "It's not enough that he pushed me out of our firm. He has to erase any success I've had without him." "What are your options?" Elena counted them off on her fingers. 1. Find a major investor or donor quickly. 2. Move to a cheaper location and lose the visibility that makes the gallery valuable to artists. 3. Compromise my vision and take on more commercial artists who sell consistently but don't push boundaries. 4. Close entirely. "None of those sound like options you want," Alex observed. "They're not," she admitted. "But reality doesn't always accommodate our preferences." Alex was quiet for a moment, thinking. What if there was a fifth option? "I'm all ears," Elena said, wrapping her hands around her warm mug. "You mentioned that your mission is to showcase overlooked artists, to give them visibility," Alex said slowly, ideas forming as he spoke. "But physical gallery space is just one way to achieve visibility. What if you could create a more distributed model?" Elena tilted her head, intrigued. "Go on." "What if Riverstone became known not just as a physical gallery, but as a curatorial brand that brings art to people where they are?" Alex suggested. "Pop-up exhibitions in unexpected venues, installations in public spaces, digital platforms that reach beyond Austin." "Guerrilla galleries," Elena murmured, mind racing, "with possibilities." "Exactly," Alex nodded, growing animated. "You could partner with businesses that have underutilized space. Restaurants with private dining rooms that sit empty during the day, hotel lobbies, corporate atriums, even empty storefronts between tenants. Lower overhead, more diverse. Audiences, greater flexibility," Elena said, the concept taking shape in her mind. "We could maintain a smaller permanent space, maybe even in my loft, for administration and select exhibitions, but expand our footprint through partnerships." "And Jeremy can't compete with something that doesn't stay still," Alex added. "His entire strategy is based on physical locations and established channels." Elena felt a surge of excitement, the first real hope she'd experienced in weeks. This could actually work. It would take a complete restructuring of our business model, but But you built Riverstone from nothing once before, Alex reminded her. You can reimagine it now. Why are you helping me? Elena asked suddenly. You barely know me. Alex considered the question seriously. Maybe because you reminded me that I'm still capable of seeing possibilities instead of just problems. Or maybe because I recognize another person at a crossroads. He paused, then added more softly. Or maybe I just like seeing your eyes light up when you talk about your vision. The honesty of his answer caught her off guard. In a world of strategic networking and calculated connections, his straightforward response was disarming. Thank you, she said simply, for seeing a different angle. That used to be my job, he reminded her with a small smile. Finding the perspective others missed. Their conversation shifted then, moving from business problems to personal histories. Alex told her about growing up in Seattle with parents who encouraged his creativity, about his early career photographing environmental issues before transitioning to human rights documentation. Elena shared stories of her childhood in a Texas border town where her mother taught art at the local high school, how she'd fallen in love with the power of visual expression to transcend language barriers. Time slipped away as they talked, their coffee cups long empty. It wasn't until Luna gently nudged Alex's hand that they realized they'd been sitting there for nearly 3 hours. I think someone needs a walk, Elena observed. She's very patient, but she has her limits, Alex agreed, reaching down to stroke Luna's head. Would you? Would you like to join us? There's a nice trail along the creek, not far from here. I'd love to, Elena said, surprised by how much she meant it. They walked side by side, Luna leading the way with dignified purpose. The path wound through patches of shade and sunlight, occasionally opening to views of the creek below. Alex had brought his camera, and every so often he would pause, framing a shot. The pattern of light through leaves, a blue heron stalking the shallows, the textured bark of an ancient oak. Elena watched him work, fascinated by his process. How he would see something, really see it, then capture it in a way that revealed its essence, rather than just its appearance. You're very good, she observed after he showed her a shot of water droplets suspended from a spider's web, each one containing a tiny refracted world. I'm rusty, he demurred. But it feels good to be looking again. Looking is the first step to seeing, Elena said, and seeing is what makes us fully alive. Alex lowered his camera, studying her face. That's exactly it. After Catherine died, I stopped looking at anything. The world became background noise, something to get through rather than experience. And now? Elena asked softly. Now? I'm remembering how to see, he said, starting with you. The moment hung between them, weighted with possibility. Then Luna, perhaps sensing the emotional shift, pressed against Alex's leg, bringing them back to the present. They continued walking, conversation flowing easily between observations about the landscape and deeper reflections on life, loss, and renewal. By the time they completed the loop back to the cafe parking lot, Elena felt like she'd known Alex for years rather than days. I should get back to the gallery, she said reluctantly. We have a delivery of new pieces this afternoon. Of course, Alex nodded. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the perspective shift, Elena replied. I'm going to start making calls about potential pop-up spaces this afternoon. Let me know how it goes. There was a hint of uncertainty in his voice, as if he was still surprised she wanted to continue their connection. I will, she promised. Then, acting on impulse, she leaned forward and kissed him, not on the cheek this time, but softly on the lips. It was brief, almost tentative, but it sent a current of warmth through her that had nothing to do with the Texas sun. When she pulled back, Alex's expression was a mixture of surprise and delight. What was that for? For reminding me that there's always another way of seeing things, she said simply. And because I wanted to. His smile widened. I'm glad you did. They parted ways there. Elena to her gallery, Alex and Luna continuing their walk. But something had shifted, a connection deepening into possibility. Back at Riverstone, Elena found Mia and Ray huddled around the computer, expressions tense. What's wrong? Elena asked, immediately alert. Jeremy's firm just announced they're opening a major exhibition space 3 blocks from here, Mia said, turning the screen so Elena could see the press release. They're calling it the Apex, Apparently it's going to redefine the Austin art scene with bold curation and visionary leadership. Visionary leadership? Elena repeated incredulously. That man wouldn't recognize vision if it tattooed itself on his forehead. It gets worse, Ray said grimly. They've already signed 3 of the artists we've been nurturing: Michaela, Diaz, Trent Wilson, and Sasha Lee. Elena felt the blow physically. Those were promising talents she'd discovered. Artists whose work she'd championed when no one else would give them wall space. The betrayal stung, but it also confirmed that her instincts had been right. Jeremy was systematically trying to dismantle everything she'd built. But instead of the crushing defeat she might have felt yesterday, Elena found herself analyzing the situation with new clarity. This wasn't just a setback. It was confirmation that her original model was vulnerable. "We need to move faster than I thought," she said, surprising Mia and Ray with her calm. "I have a new direction for Riverstone, and we need to implement it immediately." As she outlined the concept of the distributed gallery model, watching her team's expressions shift from concern to intrigue to excitement, Elena felt a surge of renewed purpose. This wasn't just about surviving Jeremy's latest attack. It was about evolving beyond the constraints he was trying to impose. "So we'd be everywhere and nowhere at once," Ray summarized, eyes bright with possibility. "Like art ninjas." "Exactly," Elena nodded. "We become known not for our address, but for our vision and our ability to create unexpected artistic encounters throughout the city." "I love it," Mia declared. "It's like we're breaking art out of its white box prison." "That's exactly the spirit," Elena agreed. "Now, let's start identifying potential partners and spaces. We need to move quickly. I want our first pop-up exhibition ready to launch within 2 weeks." As they began brainstorming, Elena's phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "Thank you for today. Seeing the world through new eyes is better when shared. P.S. Luna says you're welcome at our walk anytime." Elena smiled, typing back, "Operation Art Ninja is officially underway. We'll tell you all about it on Saturday. P.S. Tell Luna I'm looking forward to it." For the first time in months, the future didn't loom as a threat but shimmered with possibility, both professionally and personally. The path ahead wasn't clear yet, but Elena had remembered something essential. When one door closes, sometimes, the best response isn't to find another door, but to reimagine what walls are for. The following Saturday arrived with a crackling energy in the air, the kind that makes leaves dance and carries whispers of possibility. Elena woke early, mind already racing with ideas for Riverstone's transformation. The past 3 days had been a whirlwind of activity as she and her team reimagined their entire business model. They'd already secured 2 pop-up locations: a vacant storefront in the Arts District that a developer was willing to let them use for 6 weeks before renovation began, and the elegant lobby of a boutique hotel whose owner was a longtime supporter of the arts. Elena's phone buzzed with a text from Mia. "Just confirmed with Westside Community Center. They're giving us their multi-purpose room for the youth exhibition next month. Free. Said they love the idea of bringing gallery-quality art to their neighborhood." This was exactly what Elena had hoped for. Community spaces eager to participate, venues that would bring art to people who might never walk into a traditional gallery. They were democratizing access while simultaneously freeing themselves from the crushing weight of their lease. She texted back a quick thanks, then checked the time. Several hours still before she needed to be at the gallery for the sculptor's reception, and then her evening with Alex. The thought sent a flutter of anticipation through her chest. Not just nervous excitement about their developing connection, but genuine eagerness to share her progress with someone who understood its significance. Elena spent the morning at her dining table, sketching floor plans for the pop-up spaces and drafting emails to artists explaining the new vision. Around noon, her phone rang. Victoria Caldwell. "Victoria," Elena answered, surprised. "I wasn't expecting to hear from you so soon." "I make decisions quickly, dear," Victoria replied crisply. "That's how I've stayed effective. I've been thinking about your proposal." Elena braced herself for the polite rejection she knew was coming. "I've decided not to fund it," Victoria continued, "because it's already obsolete. I'm sorry. Word travels quickly in this town, Elena. I've heard about your distributed gallery concept. Very innovative. That's what I want to support, not the original proposal tied to a space you're about to outgrow." Elena sat up straighter. You're interested in the new model? It's precisely the kind of adaptive thinking the arts need, Victoria confirmed. Breaking out of traditional constraints, meeting audiences where they are. I'd like to fund your transition, help you secure the technology and mobile display infrastructure you'll need, perhaps even a small permanent headquarters. Elena could hardly believe what she was hearing. That would be transformative. That's the idea, Victoria said, and Elena could hear the smile in her voice. My assistant will send over revised terms on Monday. In the meantime, I'll see you at the reception this evening. I'm quite interested in this sculptor everyone's talking about. After they hung up, Elena sat in stunned silence for a moment before letting out a jubilant laugh that echoed through her apartment. She'd been prepared to fight an uphill battle for months, scraping together resources while trying to maintain quality. Victoria's support would allow them to execute their vision properly from the start. She immediately called Mia to share the news, then spent another hour refining plans with this new reality in mind. By the time she needed to prepare for the evening, Elena felt like she was floating on a cloud of possibility. She chose her outfit carefully, a sculptural jumpsuit in deep teal that complemented her olive skin and made a statement without being flashy. Art receptions were always a delicate balance between professional presentation and creative expression. Tonight felt especially important, not just because of Victoria's impending support, but because Alex would be seeing her in her professional element for the first time. The gallery was humming with activity when Elena arrived. Ray was adjusting the lighting on a particularly striking bronze piece, while Mia arranged wine glasses and checked name tags. The sculptor, Darius Williams, was walking through the space with his partner, pointing out details in his work. Abstract human forms emerging from rough-hewn materials, each conveying a powerful sense of striving and transformation. Everything looks perfect, Elena told her team, taking in the transformed space. Darius's work deserves this spotlight. Wait till you see who RSVP'd last minute, Mia said, a mischievous glint in her eye. Jeremy Ross himself. Elena's good mood flickered. Of course he did. Can't resist checking out the competition. Want me to accidentally spill red wine on his undoubtedly overpriced shoes? Ray offered. Tempting, but no, Elena laughed. We'll kill him with graciousness instead, and the knowledge that we're already 3 steps ahead of whatever he's planning. As the first guests began to arrive, Elena slipped into her role as host and curator with practiced ease. She moved through the space, introducing collectors to the artist, explaining the conceptual framework behind the exhibition, and subtly gauging interest in potential sales. All the while, part of her attention remained on the door, watching for Alex. He arrived precisely on time, looking both distinguished and slightly out of place in a well-cut navy blazer over a crisp white shirt. No tie, no camera this time. His hair was neatly combed and he'd trimmed his beard slightly. The overall effect was striking. He looked more present, more engaged with the world than he had when they first met. Their eyes met across the room, and Elena felt a now familiar warmth spread through her chest. She finished her conversation with a collector before making her way to him. You clean up nicely, she said by way of greeting. I had incentive, he replied with a small smile. This is quite a turnout. Indeed, the gallery was filling quickly with a diverse crowd, established collectors in expensive attire, young art students with creative styling, community leaders, and local journalists. Darius's work speaks to people, Elena explained, guiding Alex toward a particularly powerful piece, a bronze figure emerging from what looked like tangled chains, reaching toward light. He explores themes of breaking free from self-imposed limitations. Alex studied the sculpture intently. You can feel the struggle and the triumph simultaneously, he observed. It's visceral. Exactly, Elena nodded, pleased by his perception. That's what drew me to his work initially, the emotional honesty. They moved through the exhibition together, Elena occasionally pausing to greet guests or answer questions. Alex observed it all with quiet interest, taking in not just the art but the social ecosystem of the gallery world. Elena Vasquez, a smooth, masculine voice interrupted them as they were discussing a smaller piece tucked in an alcove. Your taste remains interesting. Elena turned to face a tall, impeccably dressed man with the kind of conventional good looks that open doors without effort. His smile was perfect, practiced, and didn't reach his calculating eyes. "Jeremy," she replied evenly. "What a surprise. I thought you'd be busy with your new venture." "I always make time to support the arts," he said magnanimously, as if he were doing her a favor by attending. His gaze shifted to Alex, assessing. "And who is this?" "Alex Donovan," Alex introduced himself, extending a hand. "Photojournalist." Jeremy's handshake was brief, dismissive. "Fascinating. Documenting the event for some publication?" "Just enjoying exceptional art with exceptional company," Alex replied smoothly. Jeremy's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. How charming. Elena always did have an eye for the unconventional. He turned back to her. "I hear you've been making some changes to your business model. Scaling back, I understand. If you're struggling, my offer to discuss the space still stands." "Actually," Elena said, maintaining her professional smile, "we're scaling up, not back. Taking Riverstone beyond physical limitations. Victoria Caldwell is quite excited about it." That landed. Jeremy's composure slipped for just a moment, revealing genuine surprise. Victoria's support carried significant weight in their world, and he knew it. "How progressive," he managed. "Though I wonder if your artists will appreciate the lack of permanent wall space." "Our artists appreciate reaching new audiences and breaking out of conventional constraints," Elena countered. "Speaking of which, I should check on Darius. He mentioned wanting to discuss a touring installation concept. Enjoy the reception, Jeremy." She and Alex moved away, leaving Jeremy standing alone with his barely touched wine. "So, that's the infamous Jeremy," Alex said quietly once they were out of earshot. "He's exactly as I pictured, like a luxury brand come to life." Elena laughed. "That's remarkably accurate. All polish and calculated appeal, marketing himself as exclusive and necessary." "His face when you mentioned Victoria Caldwell was worth the price of admission," Alex observed. "That was satisfying," Elena admitted, "though I'm sure he's already strategizing how to counter it." "Let him," Alex said simply. "You're already moving in a direction he can't follow." The rest of the reception flowed beautifully. Victoria Caldwell arrived, creating a buzz of excitement as she engaged deeply with Darius about his creative process. Several pieces sold, including the largest sculpture to a new collector Elena had been cultivating for months. Throughout it all, Alex remained a steady, supportive presence, never intrusive but always there when she glanced his way. As the event wound down and the last guests departed, Elena found herself exhausted but exhilarated. The evening had been a success on every level. Sales for the artist, visibility for the gallery, and a clear signal to the art community that Riverstone was evolving rather than retreating. "Your team seems pleased," Alex commented as they watched Mia and Ray high-fiving while tallying the sales figures. "They should be," Elena nodded. "They worked incredibly hard, and tonight was validation that we're on the right track." "And Jeremy left looking like he'd bitten into something sour," Alex added with a slight smile. "A delightful bonus," Elena agreed. She turned to her team. "Why don't you two head out? I'll finish locking up." After Mia and Ray departed, both giving Alex subtly approving glances as they left, Elena completed her closing routine, checking security systems, adjusting climate controls, making sure all paperwork was properly filed. "Ready for part 2 of the evening?" she asked Alex when she finished. "More than ready," he replied. "Though I should warn you that Luna has been alone for several hours. She'll be enthusiastic." "I can handle enthusiastic," Elena assured him as they stepped outside into the cool night air. Alex's loft was in a converted warehouse about 20 minutes from the gallery, an industrial space softened by thoughtful details. High ceilings with exposed beams, large windows, concrete floors warmed by area rugs. What struck Elena most, however, was the wall of photographs opposite the entrance. Dozens of powerful images from around the world, capturing moments of both struggle and transcendent beauty. Luna greeted them with joyful dignity, circling Alex's legs before approaching. Elena with a wagging tail and expectant eyes. "She remembers you," Alex said, sounding pleased as Elena knelt to greet the dog properly. I'm flattered, Elena replied, receiving Luna's gentle head nudges with scratches behind the ears. Your home is beautiful, Alex. And these photographs. She stood and moved toward the wall display. They're extraordinary. Alex joined her, looking at his work with a mixture of pride and distance. That's 15 years of traveling the world, trying to make people see what's happening beyond their comfortable bubbles. Elena studied the images. A Syrian child, laughing despite the bombed-out building behind her. Environmental activists forming a human chain before a bulldozer. An elderly woman in Appalachia sitting on her porch with dignity despite obvious poverty. A breathtaking landscape in Alaska, threatened by development. You have an incredible gift for capturing humanity in all its complexity, she said quietly. The dignity alongside the suffering, the hope within despair. That was always my goal, Alex nodded. Not just to document problems, but to reveal the essential humanity that connects us all, even in the worst circumstances. When did you stop? Elena asked gently. Taking photographs professionally, I mean. Alex moved to the kitchen, filling a kettle and setting it on the stove. The familiar routine seemed to help him gather his thoughts. About 6 months after Catherine died, he said finally. I'd been pulling back already during her illness, taking fewer assignments, staying closer to home. After she was gone, I tried to go back, took an assignment in Guatemala documenting indigenous land rights issues. He paused, measuring loose tea into an infuser. I was there for 3 days when I had a massive panic attack. Couldn't breathe, thought I was dying. The medical team evacuated me, and my editor suggested I take some time off. That time off just extended. I couldn't connect with what I was seeing anymore. Couldn't find the thread of meaning that had always guided my work. That must have been terrifying, Elena said, leaning against the counter beside him. Losing not just Catherine, but your way of interacting with the world. It was, Alex acknowledged. Photography wasn't just my profession. It was how I processed life. Without it, everything became flat, distant. That's when Luna came into the picture more prominently. She became my reason to keep functioning. The kettle whistled, and Alex poured steaming water over the tea. The rich, earthy aroma of oolong filled the kitchen. But you're taking photographs again now, Elena observed. Alex handed her a mug, a small smile playing on his lips. I am. Small steps. Nothing world-changing yet, just noticing things again, finding compositions that speak to me. Would you show me, Elena asked, what you've been capturing lately? Something vulnerable flickered across his face. They're not very polished. I'd still like to see, she insisted gently, if you're comfortable sharing. Alex hesitated, then nodded. Let me get my laptop. They settled on the couch, Luna curling up at their feet, as Alex opened a folder of recent images. They were indeed different from his professional work, quieter, more contemplative. Close-up details of urban textures, patterns of light and shadow, moments of unexpected beauty in ordinary settings. These are lovely, Elena said, genuinely impressed by his eye for composition and moment. They show someone reconnecting with the world around them, finding wonder in the everyday. That's exactly what it feels like, Alex admitted. Like, I'm learning to see again, starting with the immediate rather than the global. He scrolled to the next image, and Elena caught her breath. It was her. At the cafe 3 days ago, her face in profile as she gazed thoughtfully at the creek. The composition was perfect, the light gilding her skin and highlighting the silver in her hair. But what struck her most was how he had captured her expression. Thoughtful, determined, alive with possibilities. I hope you don't mind, Alex said quietly. You were so engaged with the moment, so present. I couldn't resist. It's beautiful, Elena whispered, touched by how he had seen her. Not as a woman trying to look younger than her years, not as someone defined by her struggles, but as a person fully alive in her complexity. You're beautiful, he corrected softly, inside and out. The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken feelings. Then Elena set down her tea and turned to face him fully. Alex, she said, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. "I want to be clear about something. I like you. Not as a distraction from my problems or a pleasant interlude, but as a person I want to know more deeply. I'm not interested in games or keeping things casual just because we're both carrying complicated histories." Alex's expression softened with relief and something like wonder. "I feel the same way," he said. "After Catherine, I never expected to feel this kind of connection again. I didn't even know if I wanted to. But with you, I find myself looking forward instead of back." "It's terrifying," Elena acknowledged with a small laugh. "Starting something new at our age, with all our accumulated scars and habits." "Completely terrifying," Alex agreed, taking her hand. "And yet, here we are." "Here we are," she echoed, twining her fingers with his. This time when they kissed, there was no hesitation, no tentative exploration. There was only the certainty of two people choosing to move toward each other despite past wounds, despite reasonable fears. Later, as they sat on Alex's balcony watching the city lights, Elena rested her head against his shoulder. "Tell me about Catherine," she said softly. "Not how you lost her, but who she was." Alex was quiet for a moment, but his arm tightened around Elena gratefully. "She was brilliant," he said finally. "A constitutional law professor with a wicked sense of humor. She could dismantle a flawed legal argument and make you laugh while she did it. She loved old noir films, hated cooking but did it anyway because I was terrible at it, and could recite poetry from memory, especially Pablo Neruda." Elena listened as he shared memories, noting how he spoke with love but without the raw edge of fresh grief. These were cherished memories, not open wounds. "What about you?" Alex asked eventually. "Any significant relationships after Jeremy?" "One," Elena admitted. "Marco, an architect I met about a year after the firm split. He was kind, creative, passionate about sustainable design. We were together for almost 2 years. "What happened?" Elena sighed. "He got an opportunity to lead a major project in Singapore, his dream job. He asked me to go with him, but I'd just started establishing Riverstone. I couldn't abandon it, and he couldn't turn down the opportunity. We tried long distance for a while, but the timing wasn't right." Alex finished. "Exactly. Neither of us was wrong for our choices, but they took us in different directions." They fell silent, contemplating the complex tapestry of choices, chances, and circumstances that shaped any life. "I should probably head home," Elena said eventually, though reluctance colored her voice. "Tomorrow's going to be busy. We're planning the layout for our first pop-up space." "I'll drive you," Alex offered, standing and extending his hand to help her up. As they drove through the quiet streets, Elena found herself filled with a sense of contentment that had nothing to do with the day's professional victories. For so long, she had channeled all her passion and energy into the gallery, telling herself it was enough. Now, with Riverstone evolving in exciting new directions, and this unexpected connection with Alex blossoming, she felt like her life was expanding rather than contracting. Unusual at 50, when so many people's worlds began to narrow. Alex studied her face for a moment. "You've really let go of needing to prove him wrong, haven't you?" Elena considered the question seriously. "I think I have," she said finally. "Somewhere in these past few weeks, my focus shifted completely from reacting to his moves to creating something authentic to my own vision. It's liberating." "It shows," Alex said softly. "You're luminous when you're creating from that place of genuine purpose." The warmth in his eyes made her heart skip, but before she could respond, Mia appeared with an urgent question about the audio installation, pulling Elena back into the work at hand. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of final preparations. By early evening, the transformation was complete. The pop-up gallery stood ready for its opening in 2 days' time. The team gathered in the center of the space, surveying their creation with collective pride. "We did it," Mia said, a note of wonder in her voice. "It actually works." "Did you doubt it would?" Ray teased. "Maybe a little," Mia admitted. "When Elena first explained the concept, I could picture it, but seeing it actually realized." She gestured around them. "This is better than I imagined." "That's because we built it together," Elena said warmly. Each of you brought your unique perspective and skills. She raised her paper coffee cup. To Riverstone without walls, and to the best team I could ask for. They clinked their cups together in a makeshift toast, the moment simple but significant, a milestone in their collective journey. As they began gathering their belongings to leave, Victoria pulled Elena aside. "I've been thinking," she said, in a low voice, "about a more permanent solution to your space issue." Elena tilted her head curiously. "I thought we were embracing the mobile model." "We are," Victoria nodded, "but you still need a headquarters, somewhere to house your administrative functions and perhaps a small permanent collection. I may have a proposition for you." She explained that she owned a historic building on the east side of town, a former public library that had been sitting vacant for years while she considered its best use. The main reading room had soaring ceilings and beautiful natural light, while the lower level offered storage and office space. "It needs renovation," Victoria acknowledged, "but the bones are excellent, and the zoning is already appropriate for a cultural venue." Elena felt a surge of excitement at the possibility. "That sounds perfect, Victoria, but I couldn't possibly afford—" Victoria waved a hand dismissively. "I'm not looking to profit, Elena. I want to preserve a beautiful building and support the arts. We can structure a very reasonable long-term lease, one that Jeremy Ross can't interfere with." The offer was unexpected and generous, the kind of opportunity that appeared once in a lifetime. "I don't know what to say," Elena admitted. "Say you'll look at it tomorrow," Victoria suggested pragmatically. "If it's suitable, we can discuss terms. If not, no harm done." After Victoria departed, Elena shared the news with Alex as they walked Luna around the block before heading to dinner. "That's extraordinary," he said, genuinely pleased for her. "A historic library would be the perfect home base for what you're creating." "It feels almost too good to be true," Elena admitted. "A month ago, I was facing the end of everything I'd built. Now." She gestured expansively. "Now possibilities are expanding in every direction." Alex took her hand as they walked. "You created those possibilities, Elena. By refusing to accept the limitations Jeremy tried to impose. By reimagining what Riverstone could be." "With some help," she reminded him, squeezing his hand. "Your perspective shift about distributed exhibitions was the catalyst." "I just offered a different angle," Alex demurred. "You built the vision and made it real." They reached a small neighborhood park and let Luna explore the grassy area while they sat on a bench, the evening air mild and fragrant with blooming jasmine. "I've been thinking," Alex said after a comfortable silence, "about what comes next. For me, professionally." Elena turned to face him, giving him her full attention. "Tell me." "I'm not ready to go back to conflict zones," he said thoughtfully. "That chapter feels complete. But I've been experimenting with a new project, documenting community transformation through art and creative placemaking." "That sounds fascinating," Elena encouraged. "Like your photojournalism background meeting your artistic sensibilities." Alex nodded. "Exactly. I'm interested in how creativity changes neighborhoods, builds connections between diverse groups, heals divisions. Your pop-up gallery concept actually fits perfectly into the narrative I'm developing." "Are you asking to make Riverstone a case study?" Elena smiled. "If you're comfortable with it," Alex confirmed. "But it would be just one element of a broader exploration. I'm already in talks with community art initiatives in East Austin and a mural project in the historic district." "I love it," Elena said sincerely. "It's meaningful work that builds on your skills and experience without replicating your past." "That's what I thought," Alex agreed. "A evolution rather than a reinvention." "The best kind of change," Elena observed, "honoring what came before while creating something new." They sat together as twilight deepened around them, discussing ideas and possibilities with growing animation. Luna eventually returned to them, settling at their feet with a contented sigh that seemed to punctuate their conversation. The following morning, Elena met Victoria at the former library building. As she stepped through the massive oak doors into the main reading room, she caught her breath. The space was dusty and in need of repairs, certainly, but the essential beauty was undeniable. 30-foot ceilings with clear-story windows that bathed the room in soft, diffused light, elegant arched doorways leading to smaller reading nooks, built-in bookshelves that could easily be repurposed for art display. Victoria? It's magnificent, Elena breathed, turning slowly to take in the full sweep of the space. I thought you might appreciate it, Victoria smiled. The architects who designed it believed that knowledge should be housed in beauty, that the space itself should elevate the mind. A perfect philosophy for an art gallery, Elena nodded, already envisioning how the space could be transformed, while honoring its original character. They toured the entire building, the grand main floor, the mezzanine level with its wrought iron railings, the lower level with its warren of smaller rooms perfect for offices and storage. With each step, Elena's excitement grew. This wasn't just a practical solution to their space problem. It was an inspired setting for Riverstone's evolution. We would need to update the electrical systems, improve accessibility, install proper climate control for the artwork, Elena noted, mentally calculating costs. All manageable, Victoria assured her. I've had preliminary assessments done. The structure is sound, and I'm prepared to cover the major renovation costs as the property owner. Your responsibility would be the specific gallery installations and furnishings. By the time they finished the tour, Elena's mind was racing with possibilities. I need to bring my team to see this, she said, and an architect who specializes in adaptive reuse of historic buildings. Take whatever time you need to evaluate properly, Victoria advised. The building has waited this long. It can wait a little longer for the right purpose. When Elena returned to the pop-up gallery to oversee final preparations for the opening, she found Alex already there, photographing the completed installation in the perfect morning light. You look like someone who's seen a vision of the future, he observed, lowering his camera as she approached. I think I have, she replied, describing the library building with animated gestures. It's perfect, Alex. A permanent anchor for our mobile concept. A home base that honors history while looking forward. When can I see it? He asked, caught up in her enthusiasm. Tomorrow afternoon? Victoria's giving me the keys so I can bring in specialists to assess the renovation needs. I'll be there, he promised. This calls for proper documentation. The before to contrast with the eventual transformation. The day passed in a flurry of final details. Adjusting lighting, training volunteer docents, coordinating with the caterers for tomorrow's opening. Throughout it all, Elena maintained a sense of calm purpose, even when last-minute challenges arose. When a featured sculpture arrived with a damaged base, she worked with the artist to reimagine its presentation. When the interactive digital display glitched, she collaborated with the tech team on an elegant workaround. You're in your element, Alex observed as they took a brief coffee break in the late afternoon. Creating order from chaos, seeing both the big picture and the crucial details. It's what I love, Elena admitted. Building something meaningful from disparate elements, seeing possibilities where others might see problems. It's a gift, Alex said simply, and it extends beyond your professional life. She looked at him questioningly. You saw possibility in me, he explained quietly, when I was still defining myself by what I'd lost. The simple truth of his words touched her deeply. Before she could respond, however, Mia approached with an urgent question about the reception layout, pulling Elena back into the preparations. That evening, as they shared a quiet dinner at Elena's apartment, they found themselves discussing the future. Not just the immediate challenges of the gallery opening, but the longer arc of their individual and shared journeys. I keep thinking about what you said earlier, Elena reflected, twirling pasta on her fork. About seeing possibilities rather than problems. It's something I've always tried to do professionally, but I haven't always applied it to my personal life. How so? Alex asked. After Jeremy's betrayal, I defined relationships by their potential risks rather than their potential rewards, she admitted. I became cautious, protective, which was necessary at the time, but eventually became limiting. Self-protection is a powerful instinct, Alex nodded. After Catherine died, I couldn't imagine being vulnerable again. The potential for loss seemed unbearable. What changed? Elena asked softly. Alex considered the question carefully. I think I gradually realized that closing myself off from connection wasn't actually protecting me from pain. It was just ensuring I wouldn't experience joy either, and Catherine would have hated that. She was always the one pushing us to take chances, to embrace life fully. She sounds wise, Elena smiled. She was, Alex agreed, and I think she would have liked you. Your courage in reinventing your gallery, your unwillingness to be defined by setbacks. The thought was oddly comforting to Elena. This connection across time, the understanding that loving one person didn't diminish the significance of past relationships. What about you? Alex asked. What helped you move beyond the caution? Elena thought for a moment. Partly time and healing, but also watching my artists take creative risks daily, putting their most vulnerable selves into their work and sending it into the world. It made me question why I was being so much more guarded with my own life. Their conversation continued as they cleaned up dinner together, moving naturally from deeper reflections to practical plans for the opening tomorrow, their ease with each other growing with each passing day. Later, as they sat on Elena's balcony, watching lightning flicker in distant clouds, Alex took her hand. I have something to ask you, he said, a note of uncertainty in his voice. That sounds serious? Elena observed, turning to face him. It is, in a way, he acknowledged. I've been invited to do an artist residency at the Santa Fe Photography Center this summer. 6 weeks documenting the intersection of traditional culture and contemporary art in northern New Mexico. Alex, that's wonderful, Elena said sincerely. It sounds perfect for your new direction. It is, he agreed. But it would mean being away from Austin, from you, for those 6 weeks. Elena understood his concern immediately. Their relationship was still relatively new, still finding its foundation. 6 weeks apart could feel like a test neither had anticipated. When would it start? She asked. Mid-July, he replied. About 6 weeks from now. Elena considered this. By then, the first pop-up exhibition would be complete, and preparations for the second location would be underway. The renovation of the library building would likely just be starting. I think you should accept, she said decisively. It's an important opportunity for your work. I want to, Alex admitted. But I don't want to disrupt what we're building together. Elena squeezed his hand. Here's what I believe, Alex. Meaningful relationships should support growth, not restrict it. This residency is part of your professional rebirth. How could I possibly stand in the way of that? Relief and gratitude washed over his face. I was thinking, he said hesitantly, that maybe you could come out for a week or two in August. The high desert is beautiful then, and I could show you some of the communities I'll be documenting. I'd love that, Elena smiled. And who knows, maybe I'll discover some new artists for Riverstone while I'm there. Always the curator, Alex teased gently. Always, she agreed. Just as you're always framing the world, even when you don't have your camera in hand. The distant thunder rolled closer, and fat raindrops began to fall, driving them inside. As they closed the balcony door, shutting out the growing storm, Elena was struck by the contrast, the chaos of the elements outside, the peaceful sanctuary they had created within. Stay tonight, she said simply, not as a question but as an invitation. Alex's eyes met hers, warm with understanding and desire. I'd like that. Morning arrived with clear skies and nervous energy. Opening day. Elena woke early, already mentally reviewing final details as the sun crept across her bedroom floor. Beside her, Alex slept peacefully, one arm draped protectively across her waist. She studied his face in repose, the worry lines smoothed out, the silver at his temples catching the light. A face with character, with history, with hard-won wisdom. Carefully extracting herself from his embrace, Elena slipped out of bed and made coffee, carrying a steaming mug to her balcony. The city was coming awake below her, delivery trucks, making morning rounds, early commuters heading to work, joggers taking advantage of the cooler morning air. Today marked not just the debut of Riverstone's first pop-up exhibition, but the public unveiling of her reimagined vision. There would be critics, certainly. Traditionalists who would question the mobile approach, skeptics who would see it as a retreat rather than an evolution. Perhaps even some artists who would prefer the prestige of permanent wall space in an established location. But standing there in the gentle morning light, Elena felt a profound sense of rightness about their direction. They were breaking down barriers between art and community, creating more democratic access to creative expression, building flexibility into their very foundation. Whatever challenges arose, and they would arise, the essential vision was sound. She heard movement behind her and turned to see Alex approaching. Hair tousled from sleep, eyes warm with affection. "Morning," he said, joining her at the railing. "Ready for the big day?" "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, leaning into him as his arm circled her waist. "Nervous?" he asked, knowing her well enough already to sense the undercurrent of tension beneath her calm exterior. "A little," she admitted. "Not about the exhibition itself. I know it's strong. More about how people will respond to the concept." "Some will love it immediately," Alex said thoughtfully. "Others will need time to adjust their expectations. That's the nature of innovation." Elena nodded, taking comfort in his understanding. "And Jeremy will be looking for any sign of weakness to exploit." "Let him look," Alex shrugged. "You're not playing his game anymore." They shared the quiet morning together, preparing for the day ahead with an easy domesticity that felt both novel and natural. By the time they left for the gallery, Elena felt centered and ready, not because all doubts had vanished, but because she was facing them from a place of authentic purpose rather than reactive fear. The hours before the opening passed in organized intensity. Final adjustments to lighting, brief meetings with each participating artist, last-minute coaching for the docents. Alex moved through the space capturing it all. Not just the physical installation but the human moments, the collaborative spirit that had made it possible. At precisely 6 p.m., Elena stood at the entrance, taking one final deep breath before nodding to Ray to unlock the doors. The invited guests began to stream in. Collectors, critics, community leaders, artists, and art lovers of all kinds. The space quickly filled with conversation, laughter, and the distinctive energy of people, encountering art that moved them. Victoria arrived early, resplendent in midnight blue, immediately drawing attention as she moved through the exhibition with informed appreciation. Several influential critics clustered around the most provocative pieces, engaged in animated discussion. Even the mayor made an appearance, praising the initiative for bringing cultural experiences to different neighborhoods. Elena circulated throughout the space, greeting guests and facilitating connections between artists and potential collectors. She kept one eye on the door, aware that Jeremy would likely make an appearance, if only to assess what he was up against. He arrived fashionably late, of course, accompanied by a small entourage of sleek gallery associates. His expression as he surveyed the space was carefully neutral, but Elena caught the flicker of surprise in his eyes as he registered the crowd's enthusiasm and the innovative presentation. When their paths inevitably crossed, Jeremy offered a practiced smile. "Quite the experiment, Elena," he said, gesturing around them. "Certainly. Unconventional." "That's the point," she replied evenly. "Art shouldn't be confined to conventional spaces or traditional expectations." "An interesting philosophy," he conceded. "Though I wonder if serious collectors will embrace it long-term." Before Elena could respond, Victoria appeared at her side. "Jeremy Ross," she said coolly. "I was just telling the Andersons about Elena's vision for the historic library building. They're considering a substantial donation to support the renovation." Jeremy's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "How community-minded," he managed. "Isn't it?" Victoria agreed pleasantly. "Accessibility and excellence need not be mutually exclusive after all." As Jeremy moved away, clearly discomfited by Victoria's explicit support, Elena felt a surge of gratitude for her champion. "Thank you," she said quietly. Victoria winked. "My pleasure. Now you should know that the Henderson piece has 3 interested buyers already. You might want to mediate that conversation before it becomes competitive." The evening progressed in a whirl of meaningful interactions and significant sales. By the time the last guests departed, it was clear that the opening had been an unqualified success, both critically and commercially. The team gathered in the center of the space for an impromptu celebration, clinking plastic champagne flutes with exhausted satisfaction. "We did it," Mia declared, her blue hair now slightly wilted, but her eyes bright with triumph. "And did you see Jeremy's face when the Times critic spent 20 minutes with Sandoval's installation?" "I was more interested in his expression when Victoria mentioned the library." Ray grinned. Man looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. Elena laughed, feeling the tension of the day finally releasing. The best part wasn't Jeremy's discomfort, she told them. It was watching people engage with the art in this new context, seeing them connect with it differently because of how we've presented it. Speaking of which, Alex said, approaching with his camera, I captured some remarkable moments tonight. The way people moved through the space, the conversations that happened around certain pieces. It was everything you envisioned, Elena. As the team began the minimal cleanup needed before tomorrow's public opening, Elena found herself standing beside the large front window, looking out at the street where pedestrians occasionally paused to peer curiously at the transformed space. Alex joined her, following her gaze. What are you thinking? That this is just the beginning, she said thoughtfully. Not just for Riverstone, but for how we might reimagine cultural spaces more broadly. What if art could be truly integrated into community life rather than segregated in designated cultural districts? That sounds like the seed of something even bigger than a distributed gallery model, Alex observed. Elena turned to him, eyes bright with possibility. Maybe it is. Maybe this is just the first step in a longer journey. Well, Alex said, taking her hand, I can't think of anyone better equipped to lead that journey. You have the vision, the determination, and now a growing network of supporters who believe in what you're creating. As they stood together looking out at the future unfolding before them, Elena felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for the professional success of the evening, but for the unexpected gift of finding a partner who understood both her struggles and her dreams. At 50, she had expected to be maintaining what she had built, perhaps making small refinements to an established path. Instead, she found herself pioneering new territory, reimagining not just her gallery, but her life. The real triumph wasn't proving Jeremy wrong or surviving the threat to her business. It was discovering that she was still capable of bold evolution, professionally, creatively, and personally. That realization, more than any exhibition opening or critical acclaim, was the true cause for celebration. Ready to go home? Alex asked softly as the last of the team headed out. Yes, Elena nodded, reaching for his hand. But first, let me show you something. She led him to a small alcove they had created for more intimate pieces, a quiet space partially separated from the main gallery. There, displayed with perfect lighting, hung a striking photograph Elena had selected from Alex's recent work. A powerful image of an elderly indigenous artist teaching a group of children in East Austin, creativity bridging generations and cultures. Elena, Alex breathed, clearly moved. You didn't tell me you were including this. I wanted it to be a surprise, she explained. It belongs here, Alex. It speaks directly to the mission of this exhibition. Art as connection, as transformation, as bridge building. He stood silently before the image, emotion playing across his face. Thank you, he said finally, his voice thick, for seeing value in what I'm creating now, not just what I accomplished before. That's what we do for each other, Elena said, simply leaning into his side. We see not just who we've been, but who we're becoming. As they left the gallery together, stepping into the warm night air of a city full of possibility, Elena reflected that perhaps this was the deepest beauty of finding love at 50. The wisdom to recognize that our stories are never finished, our potential never fully realized, our capacity for growth and connection never exhausted. Every ending was a doorway to something new. Every challenge contained the seed of opportunity. And sometimes, the most unexpected words, "You're stunning at 50, could be the beginning of the most remarkable chapter yet. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us!